I want to show you the single most powerful crypto trading strategy to build generational wealth. This is the exact strategy that Crypto God John used to go from 3 grand to $1 million. The same strategy that Lady of Crypto used to go from measly $1,000 to millions. And the exact same strategy that took this meme coin genius from $260 to $8 million. And that strategy is, of course, crypto narrative trading. If you're excited, hit that like button for me, put on your big brain hat, and let's jump in. So, in order to understand how people make money trading either stocks or cryptocurrencies, you must be aware of this fundamental quote by Warren Buffett's mentor, Benjamin Graham. Graham said, in the short run, the market is a voting machine, but in the long run, it's a weighing machine. Meaning that people in the short term will vote for stocks or crypto by investing their money into it. It might go up, it might go down, but only over the long term, when reality kicks in and the stock actually gets weighed for what it's worth, will you find out if it was a good investment or not. Let's take a look at this example of Amazon stock. In 1998, it was priced at just 50 cents a stock. And then over the next 2 years, during this dot-com boom, it soared 10x to $5 a stock as people voted by investing their money by buying this Amazon stock. And then the dot-com bubble pop, and all internet stocks, including Amazon's, plummeted. Amazon returned right back down to the original 50 cents per share just 2 years later. And once again, this is people voting by taking their money out of the Amazon stock. But only after a long enough period of time did the truth about Amazon stock really get weighed in. Because over the next 16 years, the stock would 200x to over $100 a share. Now, during these trading cycles of voting and weighing, there's traditionally 2 main ways to make money in this market. The first being technical analysis. And you've probably seen a lot of this because it is the most popular way to trade, although in my opinion, probably the least effective. You could zoom into any part of Amazon's stock growth and try to predict which direction it's going to go based on its price trends and patterns in the candle. Fibonacci's, Elliott waves, and Jumbo McTartar shapes all telling you whether it's a good buy or sell for the short term. The second strategy traditionally is fundamental analysis, and this is where we would estimate the value of Amazon stock based on looking at its revenues, debts, assets, growth rate, and compare those to the price of the Amazon stock to see if it's overvalued or undervalued. And this normally leads to longer term holds for investors. For example, Mark Cuban did his fundamental analysis of Amazon stock and invested $250 million. As that stock got weighed, his thesis proved correct and he now owns over $1 billion of this Amazon stock. But now, thanks to social media, thanks to the internet, and thanks to everybody having access to buy and sell crypto and stocks from their phone, a third strategy has emerged. That is, of course, narrative trading. Now, narrative trading is also known as social arbitrage. Is about identifying and profiting from emerging social trends before they actually become a mainstream trend. This strategy takes full advantage of the voting machine part of the trading cycle. In our Amazon example, it's understanding that the internet is going to revolutionize almost everything in the world, and if you could understand that fact before the mainstream, you could make a bunch of money. One of my favorite examples of narrative trading is by Chris Camillo from Dumb Money, who made a lot of money on the slime trend. Because in 2017, making slime from home was one of the biggest things going around. And Chris Camillo has kids who are obviously watching these really viral TikToks and really viral YouTube videos and wanted to join in and make slime for themselves. Chris took his kids out shopping to pick up all the ingredients you need to make slime, and he discovered that the main ingredient in this slime, Elmer's glue, was sold out across his entire city and even sold out on a lot of websites. Now, Elmer's glue isn't made specifically for slime. It's an industrial product that by coincidence was needed in order to make this slime. And the parent company of Elmer's glue, including the investors in that company, would have had no idea that this extra demand was coming. So Chris, being savvy, he bought a bunch of stock in this parent company before they released their quarterly report, because once they did and this narrative actually became mainstream, the stock soared and Chris cashed in with a bunch of money. So put as simply as possible, narrative trading is realizing that assets are priced on people's perception, and their perceptions are based mainly around narratives and stories that they hear predominantly on social media. And if you can understand these social narratives and trends before they become mainstream, you can also make a bunch of money. So to help you identify upcoming crypto trends before they do hit that mainstream, let's go back and have a look at some of the most popular ones that have already made millionaires. Starting with the biggest one there is, Bitcoin. The famous narrative of Bitcoin is digital gold. And if you were aware of this narrative, say back in 2014 when Mark Andreessen wrote about it in the New York Times, you would have seen some insane returns on your investment. Or we can zoom out a little bit to Ethereum, which put simply is just going to be the better Bitcoin, or the Bitcoin that's programmable. And although most people had no idea what that meant, but if you were early to that narrative and realized its power, you would have rode that massive price surge when Ethereum finally launched. Another narrative you may be familiar with is Dogecoin. This was actually one of the first narratives that I personally was able to recognize before mainstream. I saw a bunch of meme tokens popping and I knew we were on the verge of a bull market, so I snatched up Doge at 3 cents, having heard the narratives of this is the coin of the people. This is a silly dog themed crypto that's going to be bigger than Bitcoin. Or most importantly, for a little bit further down the line, it became Elon Musk's favorite crypto. All narratives that made Dogecoin surge to over $40 billion. But let's try some specific narratives on the size. Crypto gaming. For the first time ever, you could get paid to play games, directly from the game that is. Or even more powerfully, people are making $500,000 a year playing a game. And the game that started and rode this trend was Axie Infinity. Once again, I don't need to tell you that you could make a bunch of money if you were invested early in this narrative. But this is also where things get very interesting, because narratives can actually nest inside one another. I call these nested narratives. And based on Axie Infinity's incredible rise to a $10 billion market cap, a game called Crowdsource came along with the narrative that it's the next Axie Infinity. And this was really effective for Crowdsource because it was a micro cap tied its success to something that was way bigger. And lastly, a narrative example that we are passionate about here on the channel, because people can be narratives too, not just projects. You saw this with Elon Musk's favorite coin, or the crypto gaming oracle that everyone follows in order to get the next 10x, 50x, 100x crypto gaming token, Alex Becker. And therefore, one of the best ways to make money in crypto gaming is literally to follow the narrative of Alex Becker bought this crypto. Alex Becker is an advisor to that crypto. Alex Becker thinks that this token is going to do well. So now you're basically a narrative expert. Now the questions become: 1, how do you find these narratives? And 2, how do you make sure you're in these narratives before everybody else gets in? Because timing is crucial. 2 strategies on how to find crypto narrative. Firstly, Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, hurry up and get on, because this is where 95% of narratives are going to be discussed. Now there's a lot of ways to use Twitter and a lot of wrong ways, so I'll probably end up putting a whole video out on this. But to summarize, go and find people you look up to. Go and find people with good track records and see who they're following. See where their information is coming from and start exploring those people too. Follow them all and curate that timeline so you can open Twitter, get a whole news feed of what's currently trending, what's currently upcoming, and start to feel out these narratives that are taking shape. I mean, just by following Gary Vee in early 2021, I saw him talking about a narrative that was the first ever NFT, because a lot of people thought that CryptoPunks were the first ever NFT, but no, it was Curio cards, and Gary Vee identified this. I was like, most people don't know this. Let me buy one. Here's $3,000. Over the next few months, this narrative got out to the mainstream, at least in the crypto world, so much so that these NFTs got auctioned at Christie's, and the same NFT that I bought for $3,000 was now worth $80,000. Another phenomenal, probably the best, actually listen up to this one, this might be the best way you can possibly find crypto narratives, is finding Twitter crowdsourced posts. I know that probably means nothing to you, but let me explain. Popular influencers like Crypto God John, Lady of Crypto, Alex Becker, they'll put a post out on Twitter asking their audience for suggestions on tokens, projects, niches, trends that they should be investigating. And you go through the comment section of this and you literally get hundreds of new ideas. In fact, a lot of our YouTube videos come from these posts where we go and investigate on your behalf and report back what we find. So make sure you subscribe to see what we find. Okay, so you're on Twitter and you found, say, 30 narratives. Now you need to know which ones are compelling, because they're not all going to take off, and which ones are you early in. There's no point finding Dogecoin when it's at 40 billion. You're going to lose a lot of money. So filter all your narrative through these 2 questions to know if they're compelling enough to take off. Firstly, can you describe this narrative in less than 7 words? A new project that uses SHA-256 encryption and allows you to blockchain message all your contacts in your phone and request payment instead of using Venmo. Bad narrative. This token is the next Doge. Good narrative. And secondly, ask yourself, which of these narratives that you find actually give you FOMO, that is fear of missing out? Because all the best investments that I've made from narratives always gave me a little bit of excitement and a sprinkle of fear of being too late into this trend. For example, the Steppen narrative. I heard that people were making $100,000 a year just by walking. And I also heard that the VP of Adidas was on the board of that project. That's FOMO. When we came across Casper, which actually we found at a $25 million market cap from those Twitter crowdsourced posts. That's why they're so important. But it was advertised as the fastest blockchain in the world, the first ever block DAG, and it was referenced in Ethereum's white paper. Also, another personal narrative I saw was of one of the founders that has a PhD in quantum cryptography. FOMO. Or even let's just use the latest crypto project that I'm participating in, Army of Fortune. I've seed invested before the token was even launched based on this one narrative. This crypto game is made by the same team that made Clash of Clans, one of the biggest Web2 games in history. Okay, you get the point. You know what a strong narrative looks like. But do you know if you're early or late? Because this is where most beginners miss out. Most beginners are going to be way too late to trends and end up being the savvy big brains exit liquidity. So the first thing you need to do is always check the market cap. If the project has less than a $10 million market cap and the trend is big enough, you're probably very early. If it's less than $100 million, if the trend's big enough, you're going to be early. If the trend's not big enough, probably late. And if you come across a project that has $1 billion market cap, you better hope it's a damn big trend for you to be early. But I'll show you how to measure the size of the trend in the next one. But first, I want to show you, even if you are slightly late to the trend, there's still a lot of ways to make money. For example, we had the social narrative of AI, where tokens like Render skyrocketed to $1 billion in value. Now, you don't want to go and take your money and invest it when it's already been realized, but there were many more AI opportunities that rode this same trend and even rode Render's trend of being the next Render that still had less than a $10 million market cap, which you could have got into. And the second strategy of making sure that you're early in the narrative is called getting as upstream as possible. Let me explain. Who's going to be first to a new project in a big social trend? Well, clearly the developers and the team, because they're the one that actually made it. But who's going to be second? Well, it's going to be the big social influencers who are really well networked, or the big crypto whales who always have their finger on the pulse. Now, who's third? Of course, it's the friends and family of the developers and the influencers. And fourth, you may know who's fourth because it's probably you. This is where you see the influencers start to post about it online. You think you're super early to the trend and you jump in, but really you're about the middle of the stream. Now, you probably will see the price continue to go up as the people who are further down the stream, who are following them, who are late to follow them, who have to wait for a little bit more mainstream news to break, start to get in. And lastly, you know if the trend's big enough and your uncle starts to buy the crypto that you're really late. Now, this is why I personally look at people like Alex Becker, Lady of Crypto, Crypto God John, so they can do all this narrative research for it. And all I have to do is track their crypto wallet so I can see exactly what they've decided to buy after they've done all the investigating. Now, not only do I see what they decide to buy, but I see exactly when they buy it. I'll get a real-time notification sent to my phone, which allows me to buy into one of these trends before their friends, before their family, and before all of their followers find out about it. Now, our wallet tracking software is, of course, available to all of our amazing Patreons. If you're not a Patreon, hurry up and become one. The link is in the description below for it. In our Patreon, we also reveal and break down all the crypto rising trends that we're personally looking at. And we host fun events like the current one, the 1K to 10K Crypto God John copy trading challenge. So if you want to get ahead of that mainstream, the link is in the description below. Now, the last thing I must say on narrative trading is probably, it's not the most important, but you really do need it. You need to scan your brain back to the start of this video and remember that narrative trading exists in the voting phase of the trading cycle. And when most of these crypto projects eventually get weighed, they're going to go back to zero. Only the best of the best will survive. And therefore, it's crucial to know the upper limit of your narrative so that you can cash out at the highest most point before all the hype dies down and the weighing actually begins. And fortunately, I have an easy formula for you to follow. Firstly, only invest what you can afford to lose. You've heard that 1,000 times. My personal recommendation is that once you 2x, you take out your original investment so you're only playing with house money. But secondly, understand the context of your narrative. Bitcoin's narrative, do you remember what it was? The next gold. So when we're finding the upper limit of Bitcoin, we should go ahead and look at what the market cap of gold is. Because people, when trading this trend, will psychologically have that in their head that, whoa, it's way under what gold is and this is the digital gold, it must be a buy. Polygon's narrative was better than Ethereum. So how do we know the upper limit? We go and have a look at Ethereum's market cap. And ApeCoin was said to be one of the biggest crypto games that will ever be launched. So of course, we should go look at the market caps of the current biggest crypto games to see the upper limits of ApeCoin. Now, the token will rarely, at least in the narrative phase, beat out or come close to what you're comparing it to. So don't try and write it up to match the market caps, but use this information to get out of the narrative before the mainstream get out, just like you got in before the mainstream got in. If you haven't seen my 100x crypto gaming guide on YouTube, I recommend you watch that next.